who don't know, I'm born and raised in Toronto all my life. And so I really take pride in being a Torontonian. I am a mother of four, as Neecee has mentioned, I'm also an educator as well. And so my background is actually in hospitality. So that's how I really started my career. I mean, in PSW, but really found the fundamentals to understand like leadership and, organization and like skill building. And then from there, that's when I got into education. I kind of switched from being in hotels, restaurants, and bars. I love hospitality, but the hours were getting a little bit too much for me. So I shifted gears and I
Hey, it's Neecee Lexy lighting up the screen. Digital magic like you've never seen. From the stage to the mic, she's bringing the heat. With celebs and biz minds, it's always a treat. She's a boss, she's a vibe. Watch her come alive with awards on the shelf. Yeah, she's on the rise. Social waves, making plays all day and night. Neecee Lexy in the spotlight, shining so bright. From marketing dreams to the YouTube flow, live interviews with stars you know. Every post, every show, she's changing the game. Neecee Lexy, yeah, remember the name.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of the live interview with Neecee Lexy. Today, I have a phenomenal guest joining me, someone who is making a significant impact on the strategic business, finance, and entrepreneurship. She's a she's a strategic business and finance consultant, a professor at George Brown College School for Hospitality and Tourism Management, and the visionary founder behind the NMCD Inc, a coaching and a business support service firm dedicated to empowering entrepreneurs, individuals to thrive both professionally and personally. As a licensed financial advisor and a certified life coach, skill coach, recently financial planning graduate, she brings a wealth of knowledge to help businesses, individuals navigate through the financial and entrepreneur journey. She is the creator of Behind Building a Dream. So I am super, super excited to have her here. She is the one and only Nikisha, but also goes by her nickname, Nikki. How are you doing?
I'm doing so well that I'm actually going to steal that amazing introduction that you just showed with everybody. That was like the best one I've ever heard today. It was so accurate. Thank you.
You're most welcome. I love what you do. I know we met a couple of times at StartGBC, and just like your energy and the way you help and support a lot of these entrepreneurs that come into the program. I'm like, you know what? I really need to have her on the show because she have just extensive wealth of knowledge, and it's great to get to know like behind the scene and what's happening. So before we dive into the interview, I want people to get to know from your point of view, who is Nikki and how did Nikki even got here?
I know. Well, thank you so much once again for giving that amazing introduction. And so,
Yeah.
for me, for those who don't know, I'm born and raised in Toronto all my life. And so, I really take pride in being a Torontonian. I am a mother of four, as Neecee has mentioned, I'm also an educator as well. And so my background is actually in hospitality. So that's how I really started my career. I mean, in PSW, but really found the fundamentals to understand like leadership and, organization and like skill building. And then from there, that's when I got into education. I kind of switched from being in hotels, restaurants, and bars. I love hospitality, but the hours were getting a little bit too much for me. So I shifted gears and I really fell in love with teaching, really realizing that I love to communicate. I love to train. I love to educate people. I like to be a driving force, especially for students who, of course, they're on a career path. If you're in school learning something, is because you're then there to get new insights, new knowledge, new ways of learning something new, so that you can
Mhm.
bring the marketplace. So I like to be that person that really supports people on that journey. And that's what kind of landed me into like, being that life coach and,
Mhm.
having that invested notion, even as a financial advisor, to really focus more on the literacy aspect and education. So through
Mhm.
and through, I aim to be that individual that paves the way for those who may not realize that there are resources and tools available for you, been through it, navigate it, and now I like to turn back around and share with the community.
I love that. I love the fact that you're able to turn your passion into like helping people, educating people. And I feel like a
Mhm.
lot of times it's like, when you teach somebody, it gives you that joy, you're like, oh my God, I'm able to impact somebody with the information
Yes.
that I have. So I
Yes.
love the fact that you're able to do that. So before we get even deeper into this interview, I want to know, obviously you're the founder of NMCD Inc.
Mhm. Mhm.
Can you tell us a little bit of like what inspired you to even start it and what is the core mission with the whole business?
Awesome. Okay. Yeah. So NMCD Incorporated just really stands for Nik-Keisha Moodie Coaching and Development. And so going back to, I found this urge to really support people by guiding them, but really making sure that they have this sense of development, like understanding that you can't stay where you are, that you should be in a constant state of movement, whether that is, going back to school or jumping on, online webinars or even attending events, ways in which you can continue to build who you are as a person. And
Mhm.
so it started off back in 2020, actually, where we went down in lockdown. And prior to that, I had several people saying to me, like, you should become a coach. And I was like, a coach? And, when you hear things over and over again, I really challenge you to take a step back and be like, okay, I've heard this now more than once. Like, what does this truly mean? And for me, it was an absolute true calling to really identify that I was able to walk into something that appeared
Mhm.
people gravitated towards. So that's really just me honing in on I would say the mission that I believe
Yeah.
that I'm on, ideally. And so in terms of that, it was like, okay, now we're on lockdown, and then we have more time now because now continuing education is online. So then that's where I jumped, to do my life skills certification through George Brown College. Took
Yeah.
a year to get that done, but then that's what really opened my doors to saying, okay, what, I'm going to take this coaching thing by the reins. And so I started off offering, one-on-one coaching, just supporting people on helping them understand the different areas in their life that they were probably needing support with.
Yeah.
But eventually I started niching down into business and finance, mainly because one,
Mhm.
when I took the route of becoming also at the simultaneously doing my license to become an advisor,
Yeah.
realized that everybody that I was sitting with had a business. And so even though like throughout the years, I mean, from as young as I remember, 12 years old selling chocolate bars, I was
Yeah.
always a hustler. Like I've always just wanted to make money. And so hearing people's perspective on being able to acquire loans and then going into debt because of it, I
Yeah.
was like, what's the reason behind it? And then that's where, fast forward to, the Start GBC Summer Boot Camp 2022.
Mhm.
I took it and I was like, what is this? And it really shaped where I am today because it
Yeah.
made me realize, like, wow, there are resources out there that can better us. And
Mhm.
so as I was coaching my clients, I would start to implement things like, hey, did you know about StartGBC or did you know about this organization? And they have, these free resources, webinars, XYZ. And
Mhm.
that's how I realized that my business model was really turning into, yes, I can provide that tailored, personalized solution, but then if we talk about development, well, then introducing them to these amazing organizations that offer entrepreneurship programs then
Yeah.
also became a part of the business model in itself. So it was really just, I would say that it's just all honestly a part of the plan, just me being able to navigate and being receptive and knowing that, oh my God, these are things that people could benefit from. And then just adding it to the things that I'm already currently doing. So yeah, it's been quite the journey. And I mean, I wouldn't change anything. And it's crazy because even though I might specialize, I do have people coming to me saying, "Oh, like, do you do life coaching?" 100%. That's how I started out. But it's just such an amazing journey because I do have that knack to guide and be that cheerleader and
Mhm.
offer sound advice. And I am that person that sees the cup, half full, not empty. Uh,
Hello and welcome to the live interview with Neecee Lexy. We are thrilled to bring in an exclusive content in partnership with the StartGBC at the George Brown College. The StartGBC is a dynamic hub for innovations and entrepreneurships, empowering students and alumni to turn their business ideas into reality. It's a program that is fueling with the next generations of entrepreneur by providing them with tools, mentorships, resources that need to succeed in this today's fast-paced business world. Throughout these partnerships, we are shining spotlights of the inspiring stories of the StartGBC talented entrepreneurs who are breaking grounds, pushing boundaries across various industries. These stories are not just for success, they are about resilience, creativity, and the power of entrepreneurship spirit, as well as innovations. Each of our guests has a unique product, innovations, and business model. We are super excited to share their stories as well as their business ideas so that you can be inspired to tap into the entrepreneurship journey or even get a new business partner. We're looking forward to share with you guys these incredible stories, and we would love to take this moment to thank the Startup GVC staffs and members for allowing us to highlight their stories and also partnering with us here at the Neecee Lexy Show. We are looking forward to hear some of the incredible stories and also share it with you as well.
Yeah, I'm really grateful to be in this space because I get to just kind of be.
It's really, really, really nice because even in the business, it's like whenever you start something, you always kind of start, and then as you go by, the experience you have, the interaction you have, it helps you to pivot, it helps you to also like narrow down the audience that you're trying to target and make a lot more sense. And I love the fact that you're able to kind of like see the pictures and be like, okay, you know what, my value, it's more towards this type of like entrepreneurs as opposed to everybody else, and then I can make a maximum impact here. And I love that journey for you, you know.
Thank
And
you.
also you mentioned that you've been a part of George Brown as a professor. How has teaching also shaped the perspective of your business and entrepreneurship? If you can just elaborate on that as well.
Yeah, so I can say quite frankly
Yeah.
that I've had great students. When
Mm-hmm.
you see that you're delivering and you're presenting a subject matter and people are really gravitating towards it and they're engaged with the storytelling. So I incorporate that a lot into my teaching and storytelling. I
Yeah.
believe that yes, we have that component to deliver the curriculum, but
Mm-hmm.
in order to really provide that theoretical and then that practical skill set, it's
Mm-hmm.
really about sharing where I saw that come up for me. So I've teached a variation of things all within hospitality, but from like HR to law to
Yeah.
event planning. Um, Even though at the time being a student, I didn't see these things of value, it
Mm-hmm.
now allows me to kind of inform students way more of where these things are showing up and why they matter, right? Especially with, knowing that you may start off in events, but if we
Yeah.
talk about HR, well, once again, it's thinking about, well, maybe if you get into management, you're gonna have to deal with, for example, unionized environments. And then I came
Yeah.
from that, right? And it was it's that in itself was an eye opener because even when I teach HR, it's getting them to understand not the fact of union, but the
Mm-hmm.
culture, right? Why unions come up is because we do have a due diligence as employers to make sure that we're providing safe environments. So if you go into now the marketplace wanting to be that supervisor, that manager, know that that's what you're basically committing to. So I just find that it's a great opportunity to interject even life skills as well. So, if
Yeah.
I see the opportunity come up where I can encourage students to get that TFSA, and these are
Mm-hmm.
the reasons why, especially knowing that when you hit hospitality, you're going to be making some good money. Right. So think about what that looks like before you get into it because you're going to have an increase of income. So why not start thinking about investing? So I just think that it's a great opportunity for me to support students once again on the academia side, but then also adding some life skills for them as well so they can, understand that there's so much more than they're currently experiencing.
I love that. You know, it's really, it's kind of all comes back to like the entrepreneurship, the education. It's all a
Mm,
blend of that both world. I love
yes.
that. And then now I just kind of want to focus on how entrepreneurship and business strategy function. So what would you say is one of the some of the most common financial like mistakes that new entrepreneurs make, and how could they avoid it? Because a lot of people's like, oh, I want to start a business, but I don't have any financial literacy. So how can we avoid those mistakes early on?
Yeah. Oh, wow. There's a whole bunch. Okay. So, I'm just gonna make note here. So one of the things I would say is, I'm actually teaching, right now, I'm actually teaching building your special event business for special event students. And
Yeah.
that has been eye-opening because it keeps unlocking different parts for me that I
Mhm.
didn't necessarily consider to be something I need to pay attention to. So what I will first say is startup costs.
Yeah.
Like you 100% have to look at, okay, you have this amazing business idea. Great. But you must be thinking about what it will cost to take you to actually start or launch that business, right? Where are you going to get your money from? So first looking at what's the money that's going to be coming in to support now this budget for the
Mhm.
project that you have ideally. And so is it family and friends? Is it, is it your personal savings? Are you looking to get loans or grants? Like I think that we in the early onset we have the idea, so we're not thinking anything beyond that. We're just trying to execute the idea. But what ends up happening is that you run into investing into your business and not really knowing how much you're putting in, not really seeing or understanding, okay, well, was this a good idea? Are you tracking? Are you doing things in sprints? So I
Mhm.
would say the first thing is it is regardless of what, it's the startup costs go hand in hand with the market research. So if you're doing that business plan, off
Mhm.
the financials are in there. You can't avoid it. That's why I'm saying startup costs, because then
Yeah.
once you start to do the market research around your idea, industry, and then your niche, you begin to realize, oh, can I make money from this ideally?
Yeah.
Like a threshold is like if you start to do market research and you realize that, this market is not even generating over 30 billion. You want to think about that because once again, it's all about not just having an idea, but is there an opportunity to make money? Is there demand here? Are people going to actually want to um, purchase what I have to offer, whether it's a service or a product? So startup costs,
Mhm.
you have to take into consideration. Even if you're not sure, just forecasting or estimating or, guessing potential items as well as numbers. The
Mhm.
next thing I will say that is really, really alarming now to the point where I'm trying to raise more education around it, even studying, having to the post financial planning graduate postgraduate certification, and then now I want to become a certified financial planner. So that's what's the whole reason behind it, really growing
Yeah.
into becoming that person is in Canada. Taxation is pretty much what we are all faced with. It doesn't choose,
Yeah.
and so we as the average Canadian should be knowing a little bit more about what that looks like and creating strategies around it. So for me, I do want to kind of move more towards tax optimization. And I
Mhm.
say that because a lot of people start businesses but don't understand that one, it's a privilege to run a business.
Mhm.
There's a huge investment that comes with it, whether it's time or money.
Mhm.
But then the other side behind it is that, when it comes to all this money you're putting into the business, then there's the bookkeeping. And and this is why I say like I love storytelling because yes, I've been that entrepreneur that has faced, not being able to file on time,
Mhm.
mainly because I'm aware that I haven't, organized all my receipts or my invoices, and that takes up time. And then it affects me too, depending if you're self-employed on a
Mhm.
personal level, because then you can't get certain things, especially if you're a mom or even just the average person. You're not getting, rebates back and things of that sort. So I would say that those two things in terms of the finance side is really important. Like knowing once again, it's really your cash flow, right? What's coming in, what's going out, and
Yeah.
making sure that every month you're looking at your expenses, whether you're looking at them to file or even just being like, hey, do I need this still here in my business? Whether it's a subscription, a software, or just something that you're using that you may not necessarily need. And I would say the next thing too, or the next two things as well, but I'm put them together just like I did those two, it would be the sales side, the system side. So
Yeah.
for me, even though these are like different categories, they still fall under the financial aspect of it because it's the client acquisition, right? So if even if you're looking to start a business, you need to learn how to bring in money. So it's very
Yeah.
important for you to understand what it takes to strategize and bring in clientele, but
Mhm.
it really boils back to having some type of system. right? Something in place. So these things can cost money up front, but know that like these things are what's going to help drive whether it's analytics
Mhm.
that might be present within the software, or you coming up with like a pipeline and trying to measure if it's working or not. Like these are the important things that startups we are not looking at in the early onset. But when you get to
Yeah.
that 3, 5 year mark, I mean, by the time I really don't want you to get to the 5 year mark. That's why I kind of do what I do. It's like, okay, if 3 years in, you're still not, working on that aspect, you need
Yeah.
to buckle down because, yes, start up in itself can be, we're not talking about years, right? We're not talking about years here. But it could just mean that you'll be in the early stages a little bit longer if you don't figure out how to kind of grow that business, ideally.
Yeah, I totally understand that whole scenario of like how the startup costs because even statistically they say most startup don't even last for the first 3 years because they burn too early. And
Mhm.
it's really amazing how you're able to like address some of the pinpoint of the financial side of things and also the importance of taxation, especially like if you file late, they're going
Yeah,
to fine you for that. And most people just be like,
correct.
oh, you know what? The deadline is over. I could do it later. But no, later is going to actually cost you more money than if you do it now.
Correct. And
Yeah.
I'm so happy you brought that up because the
Yeah.
difference between, the government and like a credit card is it
Yeah.
compounds daily with the
Yeah.
government. So
Yeah.
it's really important that you try to get rid of anything that's outstanding, because it's harder to get out of,
Yeah.
unfortunately. Mhm.
And also like there's this one experience where I guess when I was first filing as a self-employed, then later on they're like, oh, you also have to create a GST account. I was like, what is that? So I had to learn that afterwards.
Yeah, yeah, that's another thing too. And I
Yeah.
mean, for a startup, unless you're making 30,000 out the bat, then yes,
Yeah.
you 100% need it. But if
Yeah.
you're either charging for taxes or you're making over 30,000, 100%, you
Yeah.
remember we live in a country where we tax, right? And
Yeah.
taxing is not a bad thing, right? It's really
Yeah.
about because it goes towards our healthcare, our education system, our roads, like the maintenance of our infrastructures and whatnot. So the taxes are a good thing.
Yeah.
However, you do need to understand because then there's some people that are contributing more. Like think about like people that have disposable income and two
Yeah.
people income homes, right? So
Yeah.
they're going to get hit the hardest because when you combine their income, it looks very large versus, somebody that may not have it single person. So everybody is going to get targeted on the levels that you're at. But for the most part, running a business allows you to submit expenses that do get reduced from, the overall taxable income within
Yeah.
entity or you as a person.
I love those information. These are also going to be so valuable, especially for the people that are tuning in and to like listen about okay how to make their business more effective in Canada, especially that taxation part and the financial
Yes.
aspect of it. They're going to get a lot of value out of those information that you share with us. And the other thing I wanted to ask you is like, how do you balance business? Coaching and technique to help also grow because I know you're doing so much different parts you also attend so many events. How do you find the balance, you know?
Oh man. There are weeks where the balance is there, and there's some
Yeah,
weeks where I feel like I'm tipping off the scale. But
yeah,
when I really look at what allows me to survive in a sense is
yeah.
having certain tools in place.
Hmm.
So, Google Calendar is what really allows me to do my calendaring. I do calendaring every single week and
Yeah.
daily. So looking, okay, what's coming up for the week so I don't have no surprises because life is unexpected. So I need to know what's going on so that not everything is being thrown at me. So I really learned that if I understand what's supposed to happen in my day to day, it's a lot
Hmm.
more easier to manage fires that are coming up.
Yeah.
Ideally. I also love project management tools. So being able to put something, okay, I need to get this done. I insert it into my tool and then it sends reminders to my emails. I think it's really important to have, because I mean, especially if you don't, especially in the early onset when you're starting out, you don't have people in your business. It's just you.
Hmm.
So you do have to leverage technology and automation in the early onset, which is also something as well that people are not tapping into when they first start. Like we're not looking at technology stack. Once again, these are just the other things in the business that just
Hmm.
become secondary,
Hmm.
ideally. So really it's truly automation and then just like I stopped working weekends now. Like I don't take clients on the weekends. So really setting those boundaries for yourself. That's like my
Yeah.
number one thing that I've done. And I say number one thing because I read the book by Gary Keller, The Number One Thing, and it talks about different number one things and how,
Mhm.
for example, Apple. We are all consumers of, well, we're not all, because then there's, other ones like Android. But for the most part, when you look at the trajectory of Apple, they've
Yeah.
always launched one product, right? They're not trying to launch a whole collection. It's never been like that. It's one product. And so their attitude in that way allows them to refine the product, right? And allows more of the market to hone in on that one thing. And then, but once again, when you look back, you may now have the AirPods and the cell phone and the laptop, but they did the one thing. And so what I was able to take from that book that I did was they were talking about burnout, and I had just experienced
Mhm.
that in 2022 when I started reading the book. And
Mhm.
every single year, if there's one thing that I do that supports me in the balance is I book off all holidays for the calendar year from Friday to Monday. And that has been a huge, tremendous ordeal for me because then I know that there's not client meetings. I know that I can sleep in. I know that I can spend time with my boys if I choose to do that,
Yeah.
right? Just give myself more flexibility. So you do have to set those boundaries and make sure you're putting time in place. Time blocking is another great thing as well. And then the balancing of being kind to yourself, because I do know that there are tons of things going on. But if you don't balance that you are doing the best that you can,
Yeah.
then you will falsely tell yourself that you're not, when you probably more than likely are. So, all of those elements, I would say for the most part, is really how I stay balanced or how I even try to stay balanced,
Mhm.
until I, get to that point where I have my own, executive assistant.
I love the fact that you mentioned like being organized, finding balance, making sure that you're taking care of yourself as well. Because there's
Mhm.
a lot of entrepreneurs when they first start, they're like, oh, if I'm busy, if I'm doing da then that means like I'm being productive. But no, sometimes
Yeah,
being busy doesn't mean like being overly productive. You
exactly.
have to really know how to do things. Even for me right now, the reason why I started even utilizing Calendly because it's like I sync it to my
Mhm.
Google Calendar. So it
Yes,
knows like my 12 o'clock is a lunchtime. Nobody should be on that like daily. It's like I'm not taking any calls around 12.
yes,
I love the fact that you're able to like, kind of
yeah.
explain that because I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna do
It's so important. You need to choose. You have to choose.
yeah,
Because at the end of the day, who chooses for you,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
You're the only one. You have to.
Burnout is real.
Yeah, no, it's 100% real. Let me tell y'all. Let me tell you, because as Neecee may not share, but I'll share.
Yeah,
I had to reschedule because in 2022 I had Bell's palsy, so that's what made me be more mindful of ensuring that I don't burn out. That I
yeah,
had like when I read that book, I was like, this is the book that I needed because
yeah.
it taught me how to reserve time for myself. But then now it's like, okay, well, stress will show up in other ways, right? Like, so even though I'm not experiencing burnout in that way, my
Mhm.
body's physically feeling it and I'm undergoing things like enlarged thyroids. And I'm like, oh no. So I just want to say, like, as entrepreneurs, we must be sleeping, we must be eating well, we must be drinking water. And I know it's a little bit hard, right?
Yeah,
Especially if we're trying to put a lot of emphasis into the business and still raising families or just still taking care of us as single people might be
yeah,
really, really hard. But we have to that's why I'm saying and I'm stressing, you have got to give yourself grace. Like you can, if it's one thing, it's one thing if the world is already beating us up, but
yeah.
you cannot go into that mode as well because you're just doing yourself a disservice. So you
I,
have to be kind.
I love that. I love the fact that how you talked about like having a strong mindset, building like a personal development, even like taking a break and understanding your
Mhm.
body to be able to do the job. Because at the end of the day, you want to also enjoy the success out of the business that you're building, and if you can
Exactly.
be there for it, it's like raising a child too. Then you won't be able to do so. So I love that.
Mhm.
So there are going to be a lot of people that are watching you, a lot of like young entrepreneurs who are inspired by your story. They want to follow your footsteps. So if someone is looking to transition from being employee to a full-time, like let's say entrepreneur, what are like top three steps that should they take to make sure that they can comfortable transition into the
I
entrepreneurship?
love that. I
Yeah.
love that. I would say one, definitely take the opportunity to think things through,
Yeah.
right? Like once again, we have these great ideas and often we just jump right into it. But
Mhm.
really trying to put a plan in place, developing, okay, what's my business overview? What is the products and the services that I'm looking to offer? What's that unique value that would drive people to me? Being more reflective, I think personally, before jumping into a business would be more ideal. And I would say asking for help. Like listen, in life, okay, we might feel like, oh, we don't want to bug somebody because, we don't want to inconvenience them. That is personal. Business is different.
Yeah.
Especially when you're starting up, you're going to need the insights and the knowledge from people who are doing what you're not doing already. So you must ask, you must find the courage, you must go within. We have this amazing thing called imposter syndrome. And it's because what's happening, and I know a lot of people say, oh, it's not real. Well, something is real. Something is happening on the inside, okay? 100%. And so what you have to really face with that is just saying that the reason why you're experiencing this is because you're actually becoming who you want to be. And so you're now fighting the old you that's like, oh my God, like I can't go there. And
Yeah.
the other part of you that's like, I'm waiting. You need to cross over. I don't know what's taking you so long. So don't doubt yourself and just really go for it. Because if you're at that stage where you're starting a business,
Mhm.
going back to when I said starting a business is really about I say it's a privilege because it takes money and resources to really build it. So if you're called to it and you decide that that's what you want to do,
Yeah.
understand there's something available for you 100%. So you got to just make sure you're moving very intentionally. I would say intent is your big, big word that you got to think about when you start a business. Move with intent.
I love that. I love the whole intentional behind like the
Mhm.
move and also like kind of understanding that like overcoming that imposter syndrome. And
Mhm.
for me, like I'm always been like the shy girl. Like
Yes.
I was one of those girls in high school, like sit in the front of the class, the desk like right in front of the teacher, won't say a word and just be on my books and go home. It's the only thing you could get out of me, probably a high. But then I literally have to like put myself in situations like uncomfortable. Even going to like
Yeah.
networking seminar was such a it took a lot out of me to be there. Even like teaching in front of a student, that was something that like
Mhm.
at my role at Google when I was doing the training for new hires, that is
Right.
when I started kind of finding my element and be like, okay, you know what? I'm so passionate about this product and I can speak on it. Then I feel like marketing and public speaking kind of helped me gain that confidence. But before I was never like that.
Okay.
Yeah, so I love the fact that you mentioned it because a lot of people they be like, "Oh, we see Nikita's out there like killing it, doing amazing things. How does she do it?" But it's
Mhm.
like it takes
I'm
practice, but it
facing the
takes a
fears every day. And that's something I'll tell y'all. Every time you hit a new level, you face a new fear. So it doesn't stop. I just gonna let you know it doesn't stop, right? But
yeah.
begin to realize that, wow, if I did that, then that also then becomes the driving force that allows you to keep propelling and pushing forward as well.
Yeah, I love that how you mentioned it because it's really, really important.
Mhm.
So I'm ex also excited to know about like the future goal, the where you guys are heading. What is next for NMCD Inc. and how do you see your impact growing in the next few years? Like what's next
Mhm.
happening? Because we're excited to know that and kind of like watch your journey as
Right?
well.
Yeah. So, realizing off the bat that when you do start businesses, that you have to
Yeah.
be mindful about that solopreneur side to things.
Mhm.
And so, even though NMCD Incorporated started off with me doing one-on-one coaching, I
Yeah.
then started moving towards group coaching, just
Yeah.
because you want to kind of, work smarter and not harder, right? But one of the things that I have been developing at the core of NMCD Incorporated is building a dream.
Mhm.
Building a Dream is our latest product where it allows me to have that community base for current clients and even potential ones as well. But
Mhm.
then I began to realize that going back earlier on, like why I do what I do is because when it comes to resources and tools, I want it easily accessible to the community. And so Building a Dream is an online accelerator hub. We
Mhm.
don't necessarily offer programs per se, but what we do is focusing on more of the promotion, I would say, more of the promotion of what's being marketed within the entrepreneur ecosystem.
Mhm.
And so currently right now, through my research, there isn't like a centralized location where all of these things are happening. So Building a Dream Within it, we have the bulletin. And it's through the bulletin that, entrepreneurs can come on there 24/7 access. This is where we talk about reducing the barriers too, as well, for marginalized and underrepresented entrepreneurs who are probably working a 9 to 5 and can't necessarily get the support, but could benefit like from being able to do self-directed searches on the platform to, find out, okay, is there a webinar that falls on a weekend that I can listen to while I'm cleaning? Or is there a program that, is in the evening that I can take once I get home from work with the kids or something? I don't know, in that regard. So I'm looking more towards building something that's more accessible for those that don't currently have the access to build amazing businesses. I'm looking for the next unicorn in community. I have so much knowledge, and if I can pass it on to somebody else who can execute an amazing idea, why not? So really working towards leveraging technology to start building a community full of wonderful people that we can keep growing, learning from, and sharing. So yeah.
Amazing, amazing. Nikki, this has been a very insightful conversation. Your expertise in finance, business, and coaching, it's really inspiring. And I know a lot of our audience that are listening in or tuning in, whether it's on podcast or on YouTube, they're going to gain a lot of valuable knowledge. Before we wrap up, I wanted to know, where can people actually connect with you and learn more about your business, as well as like the Building a Dream? How can they be a part of the Building a Dream as
Yes.
well? Yeah.
Amazing. I love that. So definitely you want to hit me up on LinkedIn. So I'm there at Nik-Keisha Moodie.
Yeah.
Um, and then as well, we also have NMCD incorporated on LinkedIn as well as Instagram. So I would say connect with me there, because from there I always have some type of hyperlink that you can click on. So we do tons of webinars, we do events, we once again promote grants, funding opportunities. And so you want to just tap first into the socials, and from there,
Mhm.
once you get on board, you can definitely sign up to be a part of the community. And then you can literally choose, like, do you want to just, get updated information via email, or do you want to actually become a part of the WhatsApp group where you get to become a part of the real-time conversations? Totally up to you. But I would say hit up those social media channels, connect with me, send me a DM, and I would be happy to see how I can support you or even potentially collaborate with you, right? Depending on where you are at in the stage of business or life.
Amazing, amazing. Once again, Nikki, thank you so much. And I
Mhm.
feel like you have shared quite amazing wisdoms and also information. And for those who are interested in joining her Building a Dream team, make sure to contact her on LinkedIn, as you mentioned. And I'm also going to make sure that I include all that information on the article as well as on the description below, so you guys can also connect with her. Nikki, it's such an honor to have you here. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. And you enjoy yourself as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Goodbye.